Hey y'all, it's Sarah, the wine loving bookworm, back with another book and wine review for your Sunday night. Okay, let's start with the wine tonight. I have been spotting this beauty in ABC. I mean, isn't that cool? That octopus. So I decided to pick it up. It's $19.99, so it's a little more expensive than I usually get, but I decided to splurge. It's called Octopoda, and it's a Pinot Noir. They have other wines besides Pinot Noir I saw, but this is the one that I always see in ABC. So it's a 2018 Russian River Valley, which is some of my favorite Pinot Noirs. Flavors of fresh red cherries, plums, and toasted oak. Very dry. How I like it. All right, so let's give it a shot. Give it a smell test first. That smells good. All right, cheers. Woo! Ooh, that's got a lot going on. I can taste the toasted oak, but it's not like overly oaky. Let me see if I can get the fruit one more time. It's like, right? Does it have good legs? I don't know. Be a little bit of cherry. That toasted oak really comes through though. That's good. Octopoda. That's what I said? I don't know. All right, let's move on. The book I read is called Just Mercy. It's by Bryan Stevenson, about 318 pages. It's nonfiction and kind of social justice, which goes along really well with what's happening in the world right now. This was an amazing book. And I just watched the movie starring Michael B. Jordan and Jamie Foxx. God, his name was like, Duke. Oh my God, Jamie Foxx was amazing. Michael B. Jordan was amazing. It was a great movie. If you don't really want to sit and watch or read the book, the movie's for free on Amazon Prime right now. And I can't say enough good things about this book, about the movie. It's absolutely mind-blowing, incredible. All right, I'm going to get to it in a second here, all right? Bryan Stevenson is a Harvard-educated lawyer, really, really smart dude. He did an internship. I guess before I get to the internship, he always, like, in law school was like, I want to, like, help people. Like, he had this very strong desire to help people. Now, I went to law school. Law school is very theoretical, very, cerebral. It's not really a lot of practical stuff. And he was seeing that. As you get up in the classes, they sometimes have some more practical things. But especially at Harvard Law, I could see that being very theoretical kind of law school. So he was getting frustrated and really wanted to help people. So he took an internship in Atlanta at the Southern Prisoners Defense Committee, working with prisoners on death row. He loved it. And so after graduating, there was a couple steps in between, but eventually he went to Montgomery, Alabama. He's a black man too, okay? So maybe not the best place to be a black man. I don't know that for a fact. I'm just kind of, from what I've heard. He moves to Montgomery, Alabama, because that's where people that really need the help, and opens up the Equal Justice Initiative, which he ends up running basically his whole life. It's still in, he's about 60 right now. It's still in operation. He also, I think, is a professor at New York University Law School. The Equal Justice Initiative challenged the bias against poor minorities in the criminal justice system. He took on tons and tons of death row inmates in people who had been wrongfully convicted. So the book, again, is basically about his career, particularly in helping with the case of Walter McMillan, who was a black man that was accused of murdering a white woman with just no evidence at all. They just convicted this guy, and he was having an affair with a white woman. And people in town just didn't like him. I think this was like in the 70s, maybe, 70s, 80s kind of time frame. And they just framed him. I mean, there's no other word for it. The evidence against him consisted of a man who was not a known associate of Walter, who said Walter forced him into his car. The guy was driving. I forget his name, Myers, was driving the car. Walter made him drive him to the murder site, this dry cleaners. Walter gets out of the car, is killing this woman. The Myers guy's waiting for him in the car, could have left at any moment, actually went to the liquor store, got cigarettes, this is his story, came back and picked him up. He didn't even know what he looked like. He couldn't even pick him out, Walter. this Myers guy. Couldn't even pick him out. And it later came to light that the police, Myers was in jail on another murder charge. And they were telling him, if he didn't do this, the police were telling Myers, if you don't do this, we're going to put you on death row. And so he did it to get out of that. His story was completely illogical. It had a lot of inconsistencies in it. But he was the main evidence against Walter. The other piece of evidence was from a man who said he saw Walter's truck at the crime scene. Later on, it was proven that this man wasn't even anywhere near the crime scene. He was working far away when the crime took place. Also, he identified Walter's truck as a lowrider truck, and the truck wasn't converted to a lowrider truck until months after the murder. And Walter was actually arrested about a year after the murder. The police couldn't figure out who did it. So years and years went by of biased judges just not giving him a new trial, not appeals being denied. It was insane. Like, when you heard these judges say what, their verdicts, you were like, what are you doing? Like, clearly this guy is innocent. So the criminal justice system was terrible. So that's the main focus of the book. But then interspersed in the book were other stories of horrible injustice, focused a lot on juveniles. They were juveniles as young as 13 getting sentenced to an adult prison with life without parole. Because at the time you were not allowed to sentence juveniles to death. You're still not. But they would get around that by just saying, well, here's this 13-year-old kid. And sometimes I'm not talking about murder here, other crimes, and sending them to jail for their entire life with no parole. In adult facilities, juveniles are, especially 13, 14, are horrifically abused sexually, physically by the adults. It's not a good thing. And these aren't nice jails. These are very notorious jails that they're being sent to as children. Some of them were so traumatized by their experience that they actually developed severe medical issues because of it. So Bryan Stevenson, went on to actually prohibit the policy of sentencing juveniles. He got an order, I think, from the U.S. Supreme Court that no longer can we sentence juveniles to life without parole. And, great. This guy has just dedicated his life to these issues, and I am so blown away, so impressed by this man. One of the things, I just watched the movie, like I said, and one of the things they said is that for every 9 people executed on death row, there's 1 person on death row that gets exonerated. So that's it. That's a lot. That's a big margin of error when you're talking about someone's life, killing people that did not do it. I mean, my God, terrible. A couple of really good lines from the book. He said, "The lack of compassion I witnessed every day had finally exhausted me." Can you imagine? This guy's making shit. Sorry for my language, but went to Harvard and he's working a nonprofit lawyer. I mean, he's not bringing home the bank here at all. And he's getting just doors slammed in his face. I can't imagine how exhausting that is. But then later on he said, "But I knew I would come back the next day because there was more work to do." So that's how dedicated he is to this. He also brought up that I did not know this, and I live in Florida. There is a Confederate Memorial Day. It's unofficially observed in most southern states, but it remains an official state holiday in South Carolina, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, and Florida. It's April 26th in Florida. I've never even heard of it, and I just think why are you commemorating Confederate Day? Like, I don't get it. Okay, moving on. So I can't imagine people that could read this, see what's going on in the world today, and not think there's a problem. Not think there's a problem out there. I see a lot of justification on Facebook about police brutality and the treatment of minorities and poor people, and it's just not justified. It's not. Like, when you look at the bigger picture, there is a problem here. You can't pull out, little cases and say, see, No, look at the big picture. There is a problem here. In my opinion, we have to listen to people of color. We just have to. And don't pass judgment on their pain. Stop commenting on how you think they should protest, grieve, and work through their pain, and just listen. I mean, I think this is easy as that, and I think you can start right here by reading this book. I don't think anybody that reads this book can walk away and go, I mean, this is not fiction. This is not alternative facts. This is not a spin. This is what this guy experienced. And I don't think you can read this book and think that there's not a problem in our world. So I challenge you guys to pick it up and read it. All right, so it's a little heavy this week. I forgot to bring my book in that I'm going to read. I think it's called The Only One or something like that. So next week I'm going to read that one. And it's about like a DNA test they do to find your soulmate. And then you have to be like, you're with that person now. That's your soulmate. So I thought that was an interesting concept, and I just got it. So I will be reading that one next week. Pick yourself up some Octopoda wine. Pinot Noir, my favorite. It was really yummy. I'm going to take another sip. Oh, yeah, that's good. All right, guys. I will see you next week, next weekend on Sunday. Have a great week, and cheers.